At Haeundae Beach, a Korean mafia king freezes mid-breath. Across the sand, his ex-girlfriend watches two identical boys build a fortress. The woman holding his arm, his fiancée, has no idea her future has just shattered like the champagne glass slipping from his hand. This is the story of the man who chose power over love. And the woman who raised his legacy in silence. The waves at Haeundae Beach rolled in with deceptive calm, glittering under the late afternoon sun like polished glass. Families dotted the sand in clusters of color and laughter. Children chased foam up the shoreline. Couples walked hand in hand beneath beach umbrellas that swayed gently in the coastal breeze. Everything felt safe. Ordinary. Controlled. Kang Joon-hyuk stood barefoot near the water's edge, sunglasses shielding eyes that had watched men beg for mercy and never blinked. At 36, he was more myth than man in Korea's underworld. The silent hand behind shipping routes that moved contraband across 3 continents. The architect of construction permits that entire districts to be constructed overnight. The invisible king who decided which politicians rose to power and which ones vanished into the Han River. To the public, he was simply a billionaire tech investor with impeccable taste. To Seoul's political elite, a man worth knowing and fearing in equal measure. To his enemies, a name spoken only in the past tense. Beside him, Yoon Se-rin adjusted her designer sun hat and angled her phone toward the ocean, capturing the perfect shot for an audience that would never know the truth. Elegant. Poised. Born into the kind of family that didn't just accumulate wealth, they manufactured immunity. Their engagement had been announced quietly among Korea's upper circles 2 months ago. A private wedding ceremony on Jeju Island was scheduled for autumn, with a guest list limited to those who mattered. Everything was perfect. Everything was aligned. Everything was under his control. Then Joon-hyuk's world stopped. Near the shoreline, beneath a striped beach umbrella planted firmly in the sand, a woman sat watching 2 little boys build something elaborate. Not a chaotic pile of wet sand. A structure. Walls reinforced at angles. Moats carved with geometric precision. Symmetry that spoke of careful instruction. Joon-hyuk's chest tightened. The woman's posture was unmistakable. The slight tilt of her head when she concentrated. The way her fingers moved, patient, deliberate, as she handed one of the boys a plastic shovel. The quiet intensity in her gaze as she observed without interfering. 5 years collapsed in a single heartbeat. Han Seo-yeon. The only woman who had ever walked away from him and survived. His breath stalled in his throat. And the boys. They looked up at the same moment, distracted by something beyond their sand fortress. Twin faces. Identical dark eyes that caught the sunlight. Sharp brows furrowed in identical concentration. One of them slammed a small fist into the sand when part of the wall collapsed, frustration flashing across his features before he immediately began rebuilding it. Stronger. More stable. Better. Joon-hyuk's blood turned to ice. That expression. That controlled fury disguised as determination. That refusal to accept failure. It was his. The champagne flute slipped from his hand and shattered against the sand, golden liquid soaking into the beach like spilled secrets. Se-rin turned sharply, concern and confusion battling across her perfectly composed features. Joon-hyuk? What's wrong? He didn't answer. He couldn't form words. He was already moving toward the shoreline, feet carrying him forward without conscious thought. Every step felt like walking into gunfire. Seo-yeon noticed him then. Her entire body went rigid. Recognition flashed across her face, confusion first, then understanding, then something far colder than hatred. She stood immediately, placing herself directly between Joon-hyuk and the children with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. Protective. Instinctive. Final. One of the boys tugged at her hand, eyes wide with curiosity. Yama, who is that man? Seo-yeon never looked away from Joon-hyuk. No one important, she said quietly, voice steady as stone. Finish your castle. But the damage was already done. Se-rin appeared at his side, her voice no longer soft, no longer patient. Why do those children look exactly like you? Jun-hyuk stopped 5 steps away from them. Close enough to see every detail he'd buried. The boys had their eyes, dark and calculating even at their age. His stubborn jawline. His instinct to destroy and rebuild until perfection emerged. They even stood the same way, weight shifted slightly forward, always ready. 5 years ago, Han Seo-yun had disappeared from his life without explanation. No threats. No demands for money or protection. No tearful goodbye. Just silence. Complete erasure. He'd assumed she'd run because she'd learned too much about his operations. Because she'd finally understood what kind of man shared her bed. What kind of blood stained his hands. He'd let her go. It had seemed like mercy at the time. Now she was standing in front of him with 2 children who carried his legacy in their veins. Seo-yun's eyes held no surprise at seeing him. Only cold, measured judgment. Don't follow us, she said calmly, as if issuing instructions to a stranger. Then she took both boys' hands and walked away down the beach without looking back. Jun-hyuk stood frozen as the ocean roared behind him and the world continued turning. Se-rin's voice cut through the noise like broken glass. Who is she? He didn't answer. He couldn't. Jun-hyuk didn't remember leaving the beach. He sat in the back of his black sedan as it carved through Busan's winding coastline, city lights blurring past the tinted windows like forgotten faces in a crowd. His driver, a man who disposed of bodies without asking questions, knew better than to speak. The silence in the car was absolute except for the low hum of the engine and the occasional vibration of Se-rin's phone. She sat beside him in rigid, controlled silence, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her phone screen with mechanical precision. Texting someone. Reporting something. He didn't need to see the screen to know she was already building her response. She hadn't said a word since they left Houndy. That was infinitely worse than screaming. By the time the car pulled up to his private suite overlooking Gwangan Bridge, night had fully settled over the city. Seoul's skyline glittered in the distance like a living organism, veins of light pulsing through streets he controlled, buildings he owned, politicians he'd purchased. Se-rin stepped out first, heels clicking against marble as she entered the penthouse without waiting for him. Inside, she poured herself wine with deliberate calm and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, arms crossed, silhouette framed against the city. You humiliated me today, she said finally, voice low and dangerous. Jun-hyuk loosened his collar and poured whiskey he didn't taste, the amber liquid catching light like fire. She was someone I knew, he said carefully. Someone you knew. Se-rin turned slowly, eyes sharp as surgical blades. And the children? Silence stretched between them like a chasm. Se-rin laughed once, a single, sharp sound without warmth. You don't even deny it. He set the glass down on the marble counter with controlled precision. It's complicated. Complicated? Her voice rose for the first time, cracks appearing in her perfect composure. Those boys have your face, Jun-hyuk. Your exact face. That's not complicated. That's a liability. That's a weapon someone will use against you. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed against the counter. An unknown number. He picked it up, pulse quickening. Tomorrow. 5 a.m. Dalmaji Hill. Come alone. His fingers tightened around the phone until his knuckles turned white. Se-rin noticed immediately. Who is it? Business, he lied smoothly, the word practiced and hollow. She studied him with the cold, analytical precision of someone trained from birth to see through powerful men. To dissect weakness. To exploit vulnerability. You're going to see her, aren't you? Jun-hyuk said nothing. The silence confirmed everything. Seirin set her wine down on the glass table with deliberate care and walked toward the door, each step measured and final. My father will want to know about this, she said without looking back. Your father doesn't control me, Junhyuk replied, voice flat. She paused at the doorframe, one hand resting against the polished wood. When she turned, her smile was razor-thin. Doesn't he? Then she left, the door closing with a soft click that echoed like a gunshot. Junhyuk stood alone in the vast suite, city lights sprawling before him like a conquered kingdom. 5 years. 5 years since Han Seo-yeon had disappeared from his life like smoke dissipating in the wind. No trace. No digital footprint. No sightings. He'd had his best intelligence operatives search for 3 weeks before finally calling it off. She'd wanted to vanish, so he'd granted her that freedom. It had felt like control at the time. Now it felt like the biggest miscalculation of his life. She hadn't just vanished. She'd been pregnant. Carrying his children. And she'd never told him. Never asked for protection, money, or acknowledgement. He replayed the beach scene in his mind with brutal clarity. The way she positioned herself between him and the boys without hesitation. The calm, absolute authority in her voice. The complete lack of fear in her eyes. She wasn't afraid of him. She was protecting them from him. That realization landed harder than any betrayal he'd ever survived. Junhyuk walked to the window and stared at the city he ruled through shadows and silence. Empires built on contracts signed in blood. Loyalty purchased with fear and favors. Power is constructed on carefully maintained secrets. But Seo-yeon had never asked for any of it. She'd walked away from everything he represented. And somehow, that made her the most dangerous person in his entire world. His phone buzzed again. A second message from the same unknown number. If you bring anyone, you'll never see them again. Junhyuk's jaw tightened. She wasn't running anymore. She was setting terms. Dictating conditions. And he had no choice but to comply. He didn't sleep that night. At 4:30 a.m., he left the suite alone, slipping past his own security team with the ease of a man who'd built escape routes into every property he owned. The drive to Dalmaji Hill was silent except for the rhythmic hum of the engine and the distant, eternal crash of ocean waves against cliffs. Dawn was beginning to bleed across the eastern horizon, pink and gold bleeding into deep blue, when he arrived. And she was already there. Waiting. Dalmaji Hill was empty except for the sea mist rolling in from the coast and the distant sound of early morning traffic beginning to pulse through Busan's veins. The overlook provided a panoramic view of the ocean, endless, indifferent, eternal. Han Seo-yeon stood by the metal railing, arms folded across her chest, facing the water. She didn't turn when his car pulled up. Didn't acknowledge his presence even as his footsteps approached across the gravel. She was wearing simple clothes, jeans, a loose sweater, and sneakers. No makeup. Hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Nothing like the woman he remembered who used to dress carefully for their meetings, who used to smile when he entered a room. This version of her was stripped down to essentials. Hardened. You found me quickly, she said without turning. I never stopped looking, Junhyuk replied, stopping 10 feet behind her. She turned then, slowly, and her eyes were different. Older. Colder. Changed by the years, he knew nothing about. You left, she said simply. You disappeared, he countered. I survived. Her voice was sharp as broken glass. There's a difference. The morning light caught her face, revealing faint lines of exhaustion around her eyes. Years of single motherhood etched into her features. Years he'd known nothing about. They're mine, he said. Not a question. A statement. Biologically. Seo-yeon's expression didn't change. But biology doesn't make you their father. I didn't know. You weren't meant to know. Junhyuk took a step forward. Why? Because I saw what you were becoming, she said quietly, each word deliberate. 5 years ago, you started changing. The business became something else. The risks became reckless. The violence became casual. I watched you turn into someone I didn't recognize. You could have told me you were pregnant. And then what? Seo Yun's voice rose slightly. You would have protected us. Put us in a safe house. Surrounded us with armed guards while you continued building your empire on corpses. My children would have grown up learning that power comes from fear. That loyalty is purchased. That life is cheap. They're my sons. They're boys who deserve better than a father who'll teach them how to bury bodies. The words hit like physical blows. Jun Hyuk's hands clenched at his sides. I have a right. You have nothing, Seo Yun interrupted, voice cold and final. You made your choices. I made mine. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. And they never will. Silence stretched between them, filled only by the cry of distant seagulls and the eternal whisper of waves against rocks below. What are their names? Jun Hyuk asked quietly. Seo Yun hesitated, then answered. Min Jun and Min Ho. Which one rebuilds things when they break? Min Jun. A ghost of something, pain, perhaps, flickered across her face. He's exactly like you. Stubborn. Logical. Refuses to accept failure. He'll spend hours fixing something rather than ask for help. And Min Ho? Quieter. Observant. He watches everything, remembers everything. Notices patterns before anyone explains them. She paused. Also like you. Jun Hyuk absorbed this, memorizing details about children he'd never held. I want to know them, he said. No. Seo Yun. They have a good life, she said firmly. Stable. Safe. Normal. They go to a good school. They have friends. They don't wonder why their father never comes home because they've never had one to miss. I won't destroy that stability because you suddenly developed paternal instincts. I can protect them. From what? Seo Yun's laugh was bitter. From your enemies. From the people who want leverage against you. From the life you've built that devours everything it touches. From whatever's coming. Her expression shifted slightly. What does that mean? Jun Hyuk met her eyes. You think you're the only one with secrets? Seo Yun went very still. 5 years ago, Jun Hyuk continued slowly, you disappeared. No trace. No pattern. My best people couldn't find you. That's not luck. That's helpful. Professional help. I was careful. No one is that careful. He took another step closer. Someone protected you. Someone with resources. Someone who wanted you hidden. Seo Yun's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Who helped you vanish? Jun Hyuk asked. That's none of your concern. It is if they're still watching. Still controlling. Still keeping you in their pocket as insurance. You're paranoid. I'm alive because I'm paranoid. Jun Hyuk's voice dropped. Who was it, Seo Yun? She turned back toward the ocean, gripping the railing with white knuckles. You think you're the only monster in this story, she said quietly. Jun Hyuk froze. I didn't leave because I was afraid of you, Seo Yun continued, voice barely above a whisper. I left because your enemy found me first. The world tilted. What? Seo Yun's shoulders tensed. 5 years ago, one of your associates, someone close to you, ordered my death. Said I was a vulnerability you couldn't afford. A weakness that would get you killed. Jun Hyuk's blood turned cold. Who? It doesn't matter now. He's dead. Who? He repeated, voice hard as iron. Chairman Beck. The name landed like a grenade. Chairman Beck. His former mentor. The man who'd introduced him to half the politicians in Seoul. Who'd funded his first major operation. Who died 2 years ago in what everyone assumed was a heart attack. Beck sent men to kill you. 3 of them, Seo Yun said flatly. Professional. Efficient. They cornered me in a parking garage. I thought I was dead. How did you survive? She finally turned to face him fully. Someone else intervened. Who? Seo Yun's eyes held his, and for the first time, he saw something close to fear in them. Someone more powerful than you, she said. Someone who saw an opportunity. Seo Yun, who helped you? She smiled without any warmth whatsoever. You're engaged to his daughter. The words landed like a blade between his ribs. Everything stopped. The ocean. The wind. His heartbeat. What did you say? Your fiancé's father, Seo Yun said clearly. Chairman Yoon. He's the one who saved me. Who hid me? Who's been protecting the boys for 5 years? Jun Hyuk felt the ground disappear beneath him. Chairman Yoon. The man is funding his empire's expansion. The man whose political connections had made him untouchable. The man whose daughter he was supposed to marry in 3 months. Why? The question came out barely audible. Because he's smart, Seo Yun said. He knew if I lived, if the boys lived, he'd have leverage over you eventually. Insurance. A way to control the most dangerous man in Korea. And you agreed to this? I agreed to survive. Her voice cracked for the first time. I agreed to keep my children alive. Do you think I had a choice? 3 men were going to kill me. Chairman Yoon offered protection in exchange for silence. So I stayed silent. I disappeared. I raised our sons alone while you built your empire and never looked back. Jun Hyuk's mind raced through 5 years of decisions, alliances, and carefully constructed plans. All of it was built on a foundation Chairman Yoon had been eroding from the beginning. He knows, Jun Hyuk said slowly. He's always known about them. Of course he knows. Seo Yun's expression was almost pitying. Why do you think he agreed to let his daughter marry you? Love? Alliance? No. Control. He wanted you bound to his family legally while your real family stayed hidden in his back pocket. If I come near the boys, he'll remind you who owns what, Seo Yun finished. He'll remind you that with one phone call, one leaked photograph, one anonymous tip, your entire empire crumbles. Your enemies will know you have sons. Vulnerable, unprotected sons. And everyone will come for them to get to you. Jun Hyuk stood motionless, understanding flooding through him with horrifying clarity. He'd been outmaneuvered before the game even started. You came here to warn me, he said. I came here to tell you the truth. Seo Yun stepped closer, voice dropping to something almost gentle. Stay away from them, Jun Hyuk. For their sake. They're happy. They're safe. That's worth more than having a father who'll get them killed. She walked past him toward a modest car parked nearby. Seo Yun. She paused without turning. Does Chairman Yin threaten them? He doesn't have to, she said quietly. I know what happens if I step out of line. If I tell you too much. If I let you get too close. So I don't. And if I refuse to stay away? Then we both find out what Chairman Yoon does when his insurance policy becomes a liability. She got in her car and drove away, leaving Jun Hyuk standing alone on Dalmaji Hill as the sun rose over a world he no longer controlled. Jun Hyuk returned to his suite as Seoul woke beneath him, millions of people moving through lives they believed were their own, unaware of the strings being pulled above them. He'd built an empire on understanding leverage. Now he was the one being leveraged. He poured coffee he didn't drink and stood at the window, mind dissecting 5 years of carefully constructed alliances with Chairman Yoon. Every meeting. Every favor. Every quiet agreement that had seemed mutually beneficial. All of it was designed to cage him. His phone buzzed. His intelligence chief, a former NIS operative named Kim who asked no questions and forgot everything he learned. "Talk to me," Jun-hyuk said. "You asked me to dig into Chairman Yoon's activities 5 years ago." Kim's voice was characteristically flat. "Specifically regarding any protective operations. And there's a gap. 3 weeks in October 2020. His security detail was doubled. Private contractors were hired through shell companies. Significant cash withdrawals from accounts we can't trace. Locations? Busan. Specifically, properties near Haeundae and residential districts in Gwangali. Where Seo Yun would have been living. What else? Chairman Baek died 6 months later. The official cause was cardiac arrest. But I pulled medical records. He was healthy. No prior heart conditions. Autopsy was minimal, rushed, and signed off by a coroner who retired immediately after with enough money to buy a villa in Jeju. Yoon had Baek killed. That would be the logical conclusion, Kim said carefully. Baek ordered a hit on someone. Yoon protected that person. Baek became a liability. Liabilities get eliminated. Jun-hyuk's grip tightened on the phone. Has Yoon been monitoring anyone in Busan continuously for the past 5 years? Running that search now. The sound of typing. Yes. A residential address in Gwangali. Surveillance is subtle but constant. Rotation of plainclothes security. Digital monitoring of the building's network. Someone very important lives there. Send me the address. Already done. Jun-hyuk opened the message. The address appeared on his screen. He knew without checking that it was Seo Yun's home. Has anyone else shown interest in that location? Not that I can detect. Yoon's operation is proprietary and isolated. He's not sharing this information with anyone. What about his daughter? Does Serin know? Pause. Unclear. But her recent communications show increased contact with her father. Encrypted channels. Since yesterday. Since the beach. Keep monitoring, Jun-hyuk ordered. I want to know every move Yoon makes. Understood. He ended the call and stared at the address on his screen. His sons lived there. Under surveillance. Under control. Prisoners in everything but name. His phone buzzed again immediately. Unknown number. Different from Seo Yun's. He answered without speaking. A photograph loaded on his screen. Min-jun and Min-ho are leaving a private kindergarten in Busan. Identical blue backpacks. Holding hands as they walked toward a car where Seo Yun waited. The timestamp was from this morning. 2 hours ago. Below the image, a single word. Mine. Jun-hyuk's entire body went cold. A second message arrived. They're beautiful children. It would be tragic if something happened to them because their father made poor decisions. His hands shook with barely controlled rage. A third message. The wedding proceeds as planned. Your past stays buried. Everyone stays safe. These are simple terms, Mr. Kong. No signature. No name. But Jun-hyuk knew exactly who sent it. Chairman Yoon. Making his position clear. Reminding Jun-hyuk of exactly how powerless he actually was. The door to his suite opened. Serin entered without knocking, looking fresh and composed as if yesterday's confrontation had never happened. She set her designer bag on the counter and poured herself coffee. We need to discuss the wedding timeline, she said calmly. Jun-hyuk turned from the window. Your father sent you. My father is concerned about recent complications. Complications. Jun-hyuk's voice was dangerously quiet. Is that what we're calling my children? Se-rin sipped her coffee, unruffled. We're calling it a situation that requires management. My father has been managing this situation successfully for 5 years. He expects you to let him continue. And if I don't? She set her cup down with delicate precision. Then the situation becomes unmanageable. Photographs get leaked. Your competitors learn about 2 vulnerable children. Your enemies see opportunity. Within 72 hours, those boys become targets for every organization that wants leverage against you. Your father would endanger children. My father would protect his interests, Se-rin corrected. Which currently includes keeping you powerful, stable, and married to me. The children complicate that. But they don't have to. As long as you accept certain boundaries. I'm supposed to pretend they don't exist. You're supposed to remember that their safety depends on your cooperation. She walked closer, voice softening slightly. This isn't cruelty, Junhyuk. It's pragmatism. You're one of the most dangerous men in Korea. Your enemies would kill children to hurt you. My father's protection is the only thing keeping them safe. His protection is a cage. All protection is a cage, Se-rin said. The question is whether you prefer them caged and alive, or free and dead. Junhyuk stared at this woman he was supposed to marry, beautiful, intelligent, utterly ruthless. You knew, he said slowly. You've always known about them. Se-rin's expression didn't change. I've known since before we got engaged. My father doesn't make alliances without leverage. You were too powerful, too unpredictable. The children were his insurance policy. And you agreed to marry me anyway. I agreed to marry you because of it, she said simply. A man with hidden children is a man who can be controlled. A man who can be controlled makes a suitable husband. You use children as leverage for a marriage. We call it foresight. Se-rin picked up her bag. The wedding is in 3 months. The guest list is being finalized. The venue is booked. Your empire continues to grow with my father's support. And 2 little boys in Busan get to live normal, happy lives because their father chooses wisdom over sentiment. She walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Junhyuk. If you try to see them again, my father won't send warnings. He'll send consequences. Then she left. Junhyuk stood alone in the suite, surrounded by luxury that suddenly felt like a prison. His phone buzzed one more time. Another photo. Minjun and Minho are playing in a small playground. Laughing. Chasing each other. Completely unaware they were being watched. Completely unaware that their father was being blackmailed with their lives. The message below was brief. Choose wisely. Junhyuk walked to his safe and retrieved a burner phone he kept for emergencies. He made a call to a number only 3 people in the world knew. I need a favor, he said when the line connected. The kind that doesn't officially exist. How unofficial, the voice on the other end asked. Completely deniable. Completely invisible. And completely lethal if necessary. What's the target? Not what. Who? I need protection for 2 civilians. Children. Highest priority. And I need the people currently watching them, removed from the equation. This will cost. Name your price. When? Now. The line went silent for a moment. This is about family, the voice said. It wasn't a question. Yes. Then we'll make an exception to the usual timeline. 48 hours. Your civilians will be secure. And the current watchers? Will have accidents. Believable ones. Junhyuk ended the call and stood at the window as morning light flooded Seoul. Chairman Yoon had made one critical mistake. He'd assumed Junhyuk would choose self-preservation over his children. That his empire mattered more than his blood. He was about to learn otherwise. The next 72 hours passed in calculated silence. Jun Hyuk attended meetings he didn't care about. Signed contracts that meant nothing. Smiled at people he was already planning to erase. Se-rin appeared at required social functions, playing her role flawlessly, the devoted fiancée, the perfect partner, the woman who would elevate his public image while concealing his private sins. To the outside world, they were Korea's next power couple. Inside, they were combatants circling each other with hidden knives. On the third evening, Chairman Yoon requested a private dinner. Not a request. A summons. They met at an exclusive restaurant in Gangnam, the kind of place where conversations happened in soundproofed private rooms and servers were trained to be deaf and blind. Chairman Yoon sat at the head of a low table, traditional Korean dishes spread before him like offerings. He was 70 but looked 50. Silver hair perfectly styled. Expensive suit tailored to conceal the careful muscle maintenance of a man who understood that power required physical presence. His eyes were sharp, calculating, patient. A predator who'd outlived younger, hungrier predators through superior strategy. Jun Hyuk. He gestured to the seat across from him. Sit. Jun Hyuk sat, movements controlled, face neutral. You've been quiet lately, Chairman Yoon observed, pouring soju with practiced elegance. That makes me nervous. Quiet men are usually planning something. Or accepting reality. And which are you doing? That depends on what reality we're discussing. Chairman Yoon smiled, a thin, knowing expression. Let's discuss the reality where you marry my daughter in 3 months. Where your business continues to flourish with my political connections. Where everyone profits, and everyone stays alive. Including my sons. Especially your sons. Chairman Yoon sipped his drink. They're lovely children. Min Jun is exceptionally bright. Min Ho has remarkable emotional intelligence. Their mother is raising them well. Jun Hyuk's jaw tightened. You've met them. I check on my investments periodically. Chairman Yoon set down his glass. I funded their school. Their healthcare. Their security. I've ensured they want for nothing. In exchange, they remain invisible. A fair arrangement. They're not investments. They're human beings. Everything is an investment, Jun Hyuk. People. Relationships. Children. The question is whether the return justifies the risk. He leaned forward slightly. Your children represent a significant risk. But they also represent significant leverage. As long as they remain my leverage, they remain protected. Protected or imprisoned. There's no difference when you're dealing with men like us. Chairman Yoon's expression hardened. You've built an empire on violence and fear. You've made enemies who would torture children to send you a message. Do you really believe they're safer exposed to that world? Or safe under my protection? Your protection comes with conditions. All protection does. My condition is simple, marry my daughter. Bind yourself to this family legally. And in return, your sons grow up safe, educated, and blissfully unaware their father is a monster. The word hung in the air like poison. I'm protecting them from you as much as anyone else, Chairman Yoon continued quietly. Do you really think you'd be a good father? You, who've ordered deaths over dinner. Who've built power on corpses. What would you teach them, Jun Hyuk? How to kill efficiently. How to betray effectively. How to survive by destroying others. I could change. Chairman Yoon laughed, a genuine sound of amusement. Men like us don't change. We adapt. We strategize. We survive. But we don't transform into loving fathers who attend school plays and teach moral lessons. He poured more soju. The best thing you can do for those boys is stay away. Let them believe their father was someone better than you actually are. And if I refuse? Then I stop protecting them. Chairman Yoon's voice went cold. I pull my security. I leak their existence to your competitors. And within a week, someone will take them to hurt you. Maybe they'll survive that. Probably they won't. But either way, they'll learn the truth about what their father is. Jun Hyuk's hands clenched beneath the table. There is, of course, an alternative, Chairman Yoon said, voice softening slightly. You could walk away entirely. Dissolve your empire. Disappear. Start over somewhere your enemies can't find you. Build a normal life. Be an actual father. You know I can't do that. Because you won't. There's a difference. Chairman Yoon studied him with something almost resembling pity. You're addicted to power, Jun Hyuk. It's in your blood now. You could no more walk away from your empire than stop breathing. So don't pretend this is about what's possible. This is about what you're willing to sacrifice. My children. They are already sacrificed, Chairman Yoon interrupted. You sacrificed them the moment you chose this life. The moment you built power on blood. The moment you became someone whose children need protection from their own father's choices. I'm simply managing the consequences of decisions you made years ago. He stood, adjusting his jacket with practiced precision. The wedding proceeds as scheduled. You will marry Se-rin. You will continue building your empire with my support. And your sons will continue living peaceful lives under my protection. These terms are non-negotiable. And if I come near them anyway? Chairman Yoon's expression turned glacial. Then I'll kill the woman you once loved and make sure your sons know exactly who's responsible. The threat landed with perfect clarity. Seo Yun is only alive because she serves my purposes, Chairman Yoon continued. The moment she becomes a liability, the moment you force me to choose between maintaining control and eliminating complications, she dies. And those boys lose the only parent who actually protects them. He walked to the door, then paused. Choose wisely, Jun Hyuk. Choose your empire. Because if you choose your children, everyone loses. Then he left. Jun Hyuk sat alone in the private room, surrounded by expensive food he couldn't taste and traditional decor that felt like a cage. His phone buzzed. A message from his unnamed contact. Security detail neutralized. Your civilians are now under our protection. Invisible and effective. Then another message. Yoon's surveillance team has been reassigned. Permanently. Relief flooded through him, followed immediately by the cold understanding of what he'd just done. He'd declared war. Quietly. Invisibly. Deniably. But war nonetheless. His phone rang. Se-rin. He answered. My father just told me about your dinner, she said, voice tight with controlled anger. He seems satisfied you understand the situation. I understand perfectly. Good. Then we can move forward with. I understand that your father believes he controls me, Jun Hyuk interrupted quietly. I understand he's threatened my children. I understand he's using you as a leash. Silence on the other end. What are you saying? Se-rin's voice dropped to something dangerous. I'm saying the engagement continues. The wedding proceeds. Everything looks perfect from the outside. But your father made a mistake. What mistake? Jun Hyuk stood and walked to the window overlooking Gangnam's glittering streets, his kingdom, his prison, his battlefield. He assumed I'd choose power over blood. That my empire mattered more than my sons. That I'd sacrifice them to maintain control. Doesn't it? Se-rin asked. Doesn't it matter more? You've spent 15 years building what you have. Are you really willing to destroy it for children you've never even met? Your father threatened to kill their mother. He's protecting his interests. So am I. Se-rin's breath caught. What did you do? What I had to. Jun Hyuk, if you've moved against my father. I haven't moved against anyone, he said calmly. I've simply ensured my sons are protected by someone other than the man who's blackmailing me with their lives. You've started a war. Your father started it 5 years ago when he saved Seo Yun to use as leverage. I'm just deciding how it ends. You'll lose everything. Maybe. Jun Hyuk's reflection stared back at him from the window, a man who'd built an empire and lost himself. Or maybe I'll finally win something that matters. He ended the call. Outside, Seoul pulsed with life, millions of people moving through carefully constructed realities, unaware of the invisible war being waged above them. Jun Hyuk pulled up a secure messaging app and typed a message to his unnamed contact. Increase protection to maximum. Target will respond aggressively. The response came immediately. Already anticipated. Your civilians are secure. He stared at the message, then typed one more thing. I need a meeting with them. Somewhere safe. Somewhere, Yoon can't track. Arranging now. 48 hours. Jun Hyuk pocketed his phone and left the restaurant. He'd spent 15 years building power. Now he was about to find out what it cost. The next morning, Jun Hyuk woke to silence. Too much silence. His security team should have reported in by now, routine updates on overnight activities, potential threats, movements in his network. Instead, his secure line showed no messages. No missed calls. Nothing. He sat up, instincts screaming warnings his conscious mind was still processing. His phone buzzed. Not his secure line. His personal phone. A message from another unknown number. He opened it. The photograph made his blood freeze. Min-jun and Min-ho are sitting in their kindergarten classroom. Clear, high-resolution image taken from outside the window. Both boys focused on their work, completely unaware they were being photographed. Completely vulnerable. The timestamp was from 20 minutes ago. This morning. His security measures should have been in place. A second message arrived. Your new friends are competent. But I've been doing this longer. Then a third. Did you really think I wouldn't notice when my surveillance team disappeared? Jun Hyuk was already moving, pulling on clothes, his mind racing through scenarios and contingencies. Another message. A video this time. He pressed play with shaking hands. The footage showed Seo Yun's apartment building. Her car is in the parking garage. The route from the garage to the elevator. The path from the elevator to her door. Every vulnerable point is highlighted with red circles. The video was clearly professional. Military-grade surveillance equipment. Tactical analysis. Chairman Yoon wasn't just watching. He was demonstrating capability. The video ended. A new message appeared. I could have taken them already. This morning. Last night. At any moment I chose. The only reason they're still breathing is that I permit it. Jun Hyuk's hands clenched around the phone hard enough to crack the screen. Another message. You hired the Jinwoo network. Expensive. Effective. Invisible. But not invisible to me. I know Lee Jinwoo personally. We've worked together. Did you think he wouldn't inform me when you hired him to protect assets I've been monitoring for 5 years? The words landed like grenades. His contact, his supposedly secure, supposedly loyal contact, had reported directly to Chairman Yoon. He'd been outmaneuvered before he'd even made his move. His phone rang. Chairman Yoon. Jun Hyuk answered without speaking. Good morning, Chairman Yoon's voice was almost cheerful. I trust you received my messages. If you touch them. I won't touch them, Jun Hyuk. That's not how this works. I don't need to harm children to make my point. I simply need to demonstrate that I can. That I know where they sleep. Where do they learn? Where they play. That every breath they take happens because I allow it. You son of a... Careful, Chairman Yoon interrupted, voice hardening. Remember who you're speaking to. Remember what I can do with a single phone call. Jun Hyuk forced himself to breathe. To think. To calculate. What do you want? The same thing I've always wanted. Compliance. You marry my daughter. You stop attempting to undermine my arrangements. You accept that your children are safer under my protection than under yours. You call this protection? I call this reality. Chairman Yoon's voice softened slightly. You tried to move against me, Jun Hyuk. That shows spirit. Paternal instinct. Even admirable in its way. But it also shows you don't fully understand the board you're playing on. Enlighten me. Lee Jin-woo and I have mutual interests. We've collaborated on projects you can't imagine. When you hired him, he came to me immediately. Not because he's disloyal to you, but because he's more loyal to survival. And survival means not crossing Chairman Yoon. Jun Hyuk closed his eyes, mentally recalculating every assumption he'd made. The team he sent to protect your sons. Chairman Yoon continued. They're good. Well trained. Dedicated. And they're reporting directly to me. Every movement. Every conversation. Every moment Seo Yun spends with those boys, I know about it. You've infiltrated my security. I've infiltrated everything, Jun Hyuk. Your businesses. Your operations. Your closest associates. Did you think I'd ally with you without insurance at every level? You're powerful, yes. Dangerous, absolutely. But you're not untouchable. And the moment you forgot that, you became vulnerable. A new message arrived while Chairman Yoon spoke. Another photograph. This one showed Min-ho looking directly at the camera. As if he'd sensed someone watching. His small face was serious, curious, unafraid. He looked exactly like Jun Hyuk at that age. Beautiful children, Chairman Yoon said softly. Min-ho has your eyes. That same intensity. That same intelligence. He'll be remarkable when he grows up. If he grows up. Don't. I'm not threatening, Jun Hyuk. I'm observing. Those boys have potential. They could become anything. Doctors. Engineers. Teachers. Normal men living normal lives. Or they could become targets. Victims. Casualties of their father's choices. Jun Hyuk's jaw clenched so hard his teeth ached. There's still a path forward, Chairman Yoon continued. A path where everyone survives. Where your sons grow up safe. Where Seo Yun continues raising them in peace. Where you maintain your empire and your power. By surrendering to you. By accepting reality. You're not their father in any meaningful way. You're a biological accident. A sperm donor. Seo Yun is their mother. She feeds them. Teaches them. Comforts them when they're afraid. She's earned the title of parent. You've earned nothing but their potential danger. The words were designed to wound. They succeeded. The wedding is in 11 weeks, Chairman Yoon said. Between now and then, you will make no further attempts to contact your sons. You will not approach Seo Yun. You will not hire additional security. You will not move against my interests in any way. Do you understand these terms? Jun Hyuk stared at the photograph of Min-ho on his screen. His son. A child he'd never held. Never spoken to. Never protected when it mattered. And if I agree, he asked quietly. Then they live. They thrive. They never knew their father was a monster who endangered them by existing. Isn't that the kindest gift you could give them? Protection from yourself. Jun Hyuk closed his eyes. I need time to think. You have 6 hours, Chairman Yoon said. After that, I'll assume your answer is no. And I'll respond accordingly. The line went dead. Jun Hyuk sat in his bedroom surrounded by luxury that felt like mockery. He'd built an empire by being smarter than his enemies. Faster. More ruthless. More willing to sacrifice. But Chairman Yoon had outplayed him at every turn. His phone buzzed. Seo Yun. A message, not a call. I know what he sent you. I know what he's threatening. Please don't make this worse. He stared at the message, then typed a response. Are you and the boys safe right now? Her response came immediately. We're alive. That's the best I can promise. Does he hurt you? Long pause. He doesn't have to. The threat is enough. Jun Hyuk typed slowly. I'm sorry. For all of it. For not knowing. For not being there. For making you run. Her response took longer this time. I'm not sorry I ran. I'm only sorry they're being used now. They deserve better than this. Better than both of us. I want to meet them. That's what will get them killed. Just once. Just to see them. To explain. Explain what? That their father is a criminal. That people want to hurt them because of you. Is that the only reason they've had a peaceful childhood, is that we stayed away from you? The words cut deeper than any blade. They ask about you sometimes, Seo Yun continued. Min Jun especially. He asks why he doesn't have a father. I tell him his father loved him but had to go away. It's the kindest lie I can offer. What does Minho ask? He doesn't ask. He just watches me when Min Jun brings it up. Like he knows I'm lying but doesn't want to hurt me by saying so. Jun Hyuk felt something break inside his chest. I want to be better than this. Then stay away from them. That's how you can be better. You give them the gift of safety by remaining absent. Before he could respond, another message arrived. From Chairman Yoon. A final photograph. Both boys are sleeping in their beds. Peaceful. Safe. Completely unaware that men with guns were deciding whether they lived or died. The caption below was simple. Your choice determines their future. Choose wisely. 5 hours remaining. Jun Hyuk stood and walked to his window overlooking Seoul. Somewhere in this city of 10 million people, his sons were waking up. Getting dressed. Eating breakfast. Preparing for a normal day. And he was the greatest threat to that normalcy. His phone rang. Se-rin. He answered. My father told me about his deadline, she said without preamble. What are you going to do? What choice do I have? You always have a choice. The question is what you're willing to lose. I've already lost them, Jun Hyuk said quietly. They don't know me. They don't need me. I'm just a danger they don't know exists. Then accept it. Marry me. Build your empire. Let them live their lives. Is that what you do? If they were yours? Se-rin was silent for a long moment. I don't know, she admitted. I've never loved anyone enough to sacrifice for them. Power is cleaner. More reliable. It doesn't ask you to choose between empire and blood. Your father made you this way. My father made me realistic. Love is a weakness he trained out of me early. Maybe you should thank him for doing the same to you now. By threatening children. By showing you the cost of attachment. You built your empire by being ruthless. By eliminating weakness. Your sons are weak, Jun Hyuk. Chairman Yoon is just making that clear. Jun Hyuk ended the call without responding. 4 hours until Chairman Yoon's deadline. 4 hours to decide if he was a father or a monster. 4 hours to choose between empire and blood. He picked up his phone and made one final call. To the one person who might understand. The voice that answered belonged to Director Han, a woman who'd climbed through Korea's intelligence apparatus by being smarter and more ruthless than every man who'd underestimated her. She'd retired 2 years ago with enough secrets to destroy half of Seoul's elite. She and Jun Hyuk had worked together exactly once. She owed him nothing. He owed her everything. "I wondered when you'd call," she said without greeting. "You knew about this?" "I know about most things. Chairman Yoon isn't subtle when he acquires leverage. 5 years ago, when Han Seo-yeon disappeared, I noticed. When Chairman Baek died conveniently 6 months later, I noticed that too. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you didn't ask. Because you were too busy building your empire to notice what you'd lost. Because some lessons can only be learned through pain." Jun Hyuk closed his eyes. "He's given me a deadline." "I know. 4 hours now, if I'm counting correctly." "How do you?" "I'm still monitoring Chairman Yoon's communications." "Old habits." "He's preparing for your capitulation. Wedding invitations are being finalized. Security arrangements for the ceremony are being enhanced. He expects you to fold." "And if I don't?" Director Han sighed, a sound of genuine weariness. "Then children die. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not obviously. But Chairman Yoon doesn't make idle threats. If he says he'll eliminate them, he will. Efficiently. Cleanly. In a way that looks like an accident or a tragedy. There has to be another option. There isn't. Not one that keeps everyone alive." Jun Hyuk's hands clenched. "I can't just abandon them." "You already did. 5 years ago, when you let Seo-yeon disappear without fighting for her. You made your choice then, empire over family. Chairman Yoon is simply enforcing the consequences of that choice." "I didn't know she was pregnant." "Would it have mattered?" Director Han's voice was sharp. "If she'd told you, what would you have done? Retired from your operations? Become a family man? Built a normal life?" Jun Hyuk said nothing. "Exactly," Director Han continued. "You would have done what Chairman Yoon is doing now, put them somewhere safe and distant while you continued your work. The only difference is that Yoon is using them as leverage, and you would have called it protection. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? Both scenarios end with you absent from their lives. Both end with them safer without you than with you. The only variable is who controls the arrangement." Jun Hyuk walked to the window, watching Seoul wake beneath him. "I want to meet them," he said quietly. "Before I make my decision. Just once." "That's the worst possible idea." "Why?" "Because if you meet them, you won't be able to walk away. You'll see yourself in them. You'll feel something you've spent 15 years training yourself not to feel. And you'll make emotional decisions instead of strategic ones. Maybe that's exactly what I need." "No," Director Han said firmly. "What you need is clarity. And I can provide that." "How?" "I'm sending you files. Surveillance footage, Chairman Yoon doesn't know I have. Watch them. See who your sons actually are. Then decide if you're willing to destroy their lives by entering them." The files arrived moments later. Encrypted. Secure. Jun Hyuk hesitated, then opened the first one. Video footage from a playground. Min Jun and Min Ho are playing together. Building something elaborate in the sandbox. Min Jun directing, explaining, correcting. Min Ho watching, learning, supporting. They worked in perfect synchronization. Brothers. The footage continued. Min Jun's creation collapsed. His face crumpled with frustration. Min Ho immediately moved closer, not fixing it for him, but sitting beside him. Waiting. Supporting through presence rather than words. After a moment, Min Jun started rebuilding. Stronger this time. Better. The camera angle shifted. Seo-yeon was watching from a bench. Not interfering. Letting them solve their own problems. But ready to step in if needed. Good parenting. The kind Jun Hyuk had never experienced. The kind he had no idea how to provide. The second video was from their kindergarten. Minho, during circle time, watches other children with careful attention. When one child started crying, overwhelmed by too much noise, Minho quietly moved closer. Offered his toy without being asked. Sat beside the crying child until they calmed down. Empathy. Intuition. Emotionally intelligent, Jun Hyuk had systematically destroyed himself. The third video showed both boys at home with Seo Yun. Dinner. Laughter. Min Jun is telling an elaborate story about school. Minho adds details that Min Jun forgot. Seo Yun listened with complete attention, asking questions, making them feel heard. This was a family. Complete without him. Thriving in his absence. Jun Hyuk watched all 12 videos director Han had sent. By the end, his chest felt hollow. These weren't abstract concepts, children, sons, legacy. These were people. Small humans with personalities and preferences and futures that didn't include him. They were better off without him. Director Han called back. Did you watch them? Yes. And? They're happy. They are. Because Seo Yun built a world where your violence doesn't reach them. Where your enemies don't hunt them. Where they can be normal children instead of targets. I'm their father. Biology doesn't make you a father, Jun Hyuk. Presence does. Protection does. Sacrifice does. You've provided none of those things. Chairman Yoon, for all his manipulation, has provided all three. The words were brutal in their accuracy. So I should just give up. I'm saying you should recognize reality. You're not a father. You're a threat. And the most loving thing you can do is remain one. Jun Hyuk stared at his reflection in the window. What would you do? He asked. If they were yours? Director Han was silent for a long moment. I'd walk away, she said finally. I'd marry Se-rin. I'd build my empire. I'd let them grow up believing their father was someone better than me. And I'd spend the rest of my life knowing I chose correctly even though it destroyed me. That's not a choice. That's surrender. Sometimes surrender is the only form of victory available. Jun Hyuk checked the time. 2 hours remaining. There's one more thing you should know, Director Han said. Chairman Yoon is preparing contingencies in case you refuse. Seo Yun doesn't know this, but he's already identified a family in Canada willing to adopt the boys. Anonymous placement. New identities. Complete erasure. He'd take them from their mother. If you force his hand, yes. He'd rather eliminate all variables than risk you destabilizing his control. Seo Yun would wake up one morning to find her children gone. No explanation. No trail. Just absence. Jun Hyuk's vision went red. That's kidnapping. That's contingency planning. And it's legal enough with his resources. Foreign adoption. Falsified documents claiming parental unfitness. It would be done before anyone could stop it. She'd never recover from that. No. But she'd be alive. And the boys would be safe. From you. From your enemies. From this entire situation. Jun Hyuk sat down heavily. How do you know this? Because I helped him develop the plan 2 years ago, before I retired. He was preparing even then. Always thinking ahead. Always eliminating variables before they become problems. You helped him. I was paid to provide strategic counsel. I provided it. Whether he uses it isn't my responsibility. You're telling me now. Because you deserve to understand what you're actually choosing between. Not empire versus family. But their lives as they know them versus their complete erasure. If you push Chairman Yoon, he won't just threaten. He'll remove them entirely. And you'll never see them again. Jun Hyuk's phone showed 90 minutes remaining. What do I do? He asked, the first time in 15 years he'd asked anyone for guidance. You accept that some wars can't be won, Director Han said gently. You marry Se-rin. You attend the wedding that Chairman Yoon has planned. You smile for the cameras. You build your empire. And you let two little boys grow up safe, happy, and ignorant of the monster who gave them life. And if I can't accept that, then you're choosing your own emotional satisfaction over their safety. You're choosing to feel like a father over actually protecting them. And that makes you exactly as selfish as Chairman Yoon believes you are. The line went dead. Jun Hyuk sat alone in his suite as Seoul hummed with life below. 1 hour remaining. He pulled up the videos again. Watched Min Jun rebuild his sandcastle with determination. Watched Min Ho comfort a crying classmate without being asked. Watched Seo Yun create a home filled with the love these children deserved. A home that didn't include him. For the first time in 15 years, Kang Jun Hyuk felt fear. Not of death. Not of defeat. But of making the wrong choice. Of choosing empire over blood and regretting it forever. Or choosing blood over empire and destroying everything in the process. He picked up his phone. 30 minutes remaining. He typed a message to Chairman Yoon. Then deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. The answer should have been simple. But nothing about this was simple. Outside his window, the city he'd conquered glittered with false promise. Inside his chest, something he'd thought long dead was breaking. While Jun Hyuk wrestled with impossible choices in Seoul, Seo Yun sat in her small apartment in Busan, watching her son sleep. Min Jun sprawled across his bed, covers kicked off, one arm hanging over the edge. Even in sleep, he looked determined. Stubborn. Ready to fight whatever dreams confronted him. Min Ho slept curled on his side, stuffed rabbit clutched against his chest. Peaceful. Trusting the world to be kind while he was vulnerable. They had no idea men were deciding their fate. No idea their father even existed. No idea how close they were to losing everything. Seo Yun's phone sat on the kitchen table, silent but heavy with unspoken threats. Chairman Yoon's deadline was approaching. Jun Hyuk would make his choice soon. And regardless of what he chose, her sons would pay the price. She'd known this moment would come eventually. 5 years of hiding couldn't last forever. She stood and walked to the window overlooking Busan's nighttime sprawl. Somewhere in this city, Chairman Yoon's people were watching. Monitoring. Reporting her every movement back to him. She'd been a prisoner for 5 years. A well-treated prisoner. But a prisoner nonetheless. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered carefully. Yes. Ms. Han. The voice was unfamiliar. Professional. Female. My name is Director Han. We haven't met, but we have mutual interests regarding your son's safety. Seo Yun's entire body tensed. Who are you? Someone who understands what Chairman Yoon is capable of. And someone who wants you to understand your actual position. I understand perfectly. Do you? Do you understand that Chairman Yoon has contingency plans you're unaware of? That if Kang Jun Hyuk refuses his terms, you'll wake up tomorrow to find your children gone. Adopted internationally. Given new identities. Erased from your life completely. The words hit like physical blows. He wouldn't. He would. He's already prepared the documentation. The family in Vancouver. The legal channels. It would take 8 hours to execute once he gives the order. Seo Yun gripped the phone so hard it creaked. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what you're actually protecting them from. Not just Jun Hyuk. Chairman Yoon, too. You've been trapped between two powerful men for 5 years. It's time you understood both cages. What do you want from me? I want you to be ready. To have a plan. To stop being a passive piece in their game. I can't fight Chairman Yoon. I don't have resources or power or... You have the most powerful weapon of all, Director Han interrupted. You're their mother. You know them in ways neither Yoon nor Jun Hyuk ever will. That knowledge is leverage if you're willing to use it. Seo Yun glanced at her sleeping sons. Use my children as leverage. That's what I've been trying to avoid. Then you've already lost. The moment you had those children, they became leverage. The question is whether you control how they're used or whether you let men like Yoon and Jun Hyuk decide for you. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting you stop waiting to be saved and start saving yourself. Yoon's surveillance team reports to him, but they're not infallible. There are gaps. Windows. Opportunities. If you were smart, you'd use them. To do what? Run. Hide. Chairman Yoon found me once. He'll find me again. Not if you run properly. Not if you have help from someone he doesn't know is involved. Seo Yun's heart pounded. You're offering to help me. I'm offering to provide options. What you do with them is your choice. But you need to make that choice soon. Jun Hyuk's deadline expires in 23 minutes. After that, Chairman Yoon will respond. And if his response involves removing your children, you'll have no warning. No chance to stop it. Why would you help me? Because I'm tired of watching powerful men treat women and children as disposable assets. Because I have my own reasons for wanting Chairman Yoon's plans disrupted. And because those boys deserve better than being pawns in someone else's war. Seo Yun looked at her sons again. Min Jun stirred slightly, probably dreaming of building something. Minho's fingers were twitching around his rabbit, lost in whatever peaceful place children go when the world can't touch them. What do I need to do? She asked quietly. First, you need documents. Passports. Cash. Emergency supplies. I'm sending you a location where these have been prepared. Second, you need to be ready to move within 30 minutes of my call. Third, you need to trust me completely when the time comes. That's a lot to ask. It's a lot less than what you'll lose if you do nothing. Seo Yun closed her eyes. 5 years of compliance. 5 years of accepting Chairman Yoon's protection because it seemed like the only option. 5 years of teaching her sons to be invisible. Maybe it was time to teach them to run instead. How do I know this isn't a trap? How do I know you're not working for Chairman Yoon? You don't. But you also know that if I were working for him, your children would already be gone. Yoon doesn't waste time on conversations when he can simply take what he wants. The logic was sound. Terrifying, but sound. If I do this, if I run, where would we go? Somewhere neither Yoon nor Jun Hyuk can easily reach. Somewhere with resources to protect you. Somewhere you can rebuild. And the price for this help? Information. About Chairman Yoon's operations. About his network. About everything you've observed over 5 years of being inside his protection scheme. You provide that information to people who can use it. And in exchange, you disappear completely. Seo Yun's mind raced through implications and consequences. Running meant abandoning the life she'd built. The apartment. The school. The friends Min Jun and Minho had made. But staying meant remaining a prisoner. Or worse, losing her children entirely. I need time to think, she said. You have 15 minutes until Jun Hyuk's deadline expires. Use them wisely. The call ended. Seo Yun stood frozen, staring at her phone. Then she moved. Quickly. Efficiently. Quietly. She pulled a go bag from the back of her closet, prepared 2 years ago during a moment of paranoia she'd almost dismissed as excessive. Passports inside. Cash. Basic supplies. Emergency contacts she'd never used. She'd been preparing to run for years without admitting it to herself. She checked on her sons again. Still sleeping. Still innocent. Still unaware that their entire world was about to change. Her phone buzzed. A message from the number Director Han had called from. An address in Busan. Instructions. A time. Be ready. When I call, you have 5 minutes to reach this location. No delays. No hesitation. Or the window closes forever. Seo Yun's hands shook as she typed a response. How will I know when? You'll know. She sat on her couch, go bag at her feet, watching the clock count down minutes she couldn't get back. 13 minutes until Jun Hyuk's deadline. 13 minutes until Chairman Yoon responded to whatever choice Jun Hyuk made. 13 minutes until her life changed forever. Her phone rang again. Jun Hyuk. She almost didn't answer. Then did. Seo Yun. His voice was rough. Broken. I'm sorry. For what? For all of it. For not being there. For bringing this danger to them. For being exactly what you feared I'd become. Tears burned her eyes. What did you decide? I'm calling Chairman Yoon in 10 minutes. I'm going to accept his terms. Marry Se-rin. Stay away from the boys. Let them grow up safe. Relief and grief hit simultaneously. Thank you, she whispered. But I need you to know something first. His voice strengthened slightly. Director Han contacted you, didn't she? Seo Yun froze. How did you? Because she contacted me, too. Told me about Yoon's contingency plans. About Canada. About what he'll do if he ever feels threatened. Jun Hyuk. Run, he said firmly. Take them and run. Use whatever help Director Han offers. Get them somewhere safe. Somewhere, I can't endanger them, and Yoon can't control them. But you're accepting Yoon's terms. I'm accepting them to buy you time. To make him think he's won. To give you a window to escape before he realizes what's happening. But you have to move now. Tonight. Before my compliance makes him complacent. Where would we go? I don't know. And I don't want to know. The less I know, the less I can reveal if Yoon interrogates me. Just, go. Be safe. Raise them somewhere better than this. Seo Yun's throat tightened. I never wanted this for you. For any of us. I know. But we don't get to choose our consequences. We only get to choose how we respond to them. And I'm choosing to let you go. Really let you go this time. No surveillance. No tracking. No looking back. Will you be safe? Jun Hyuk laughed, a sound without humor. I stopped being safe the day I chose this life. But yeah. I'll survive. I always do. Just, tell them something kind when they ask about me someday. Tell them their father loved them enough to stay away. I will. Seo Yun. Yes. They're incredible. Both of them. You did that. You built something beautiful out of all this ugliness. Don't let anyone take that from you. The line went dead. Seo Yun sat crying silently, hand over her mouth to avoid waking her sons. 5 minutes remaining. Her phone buzzed. Director Han. Now. Move now. You have 5 minutes. Seo Yun grabbed her go bag and walked to her son's room. She gently woke Min Jun first. Yama? His voice was sleepy and confused. What's wrong? We're going on an adventure, she whispered, forcing her voice steady. But we have to be very quiet and very fast. Can you do that for me? Min-jun nodded, sensing this wasn't a game. She woke Min-ho next. He looked at her with those two knowing eyes and simply asked, "Are we safe?" "We will be," she promised. "But we have to leave right now. Can you both get dressed quickly? Just grab your favorite things. We can't take much." They moved with surprising efficiency, children who'd learned to trust their mother's judgment without question. 3 minutes later, they were dressed. Bags packed with essentials and treasured items. Ready to abandon everything they'd ever known. Seo-yun took their hands and led them to the door. Paused for one last look at the apartment that had been their sanctuary. Then walked out into the unknown. Jun-hyuk stood at his window, phone in hand, watching Seoul's lights pulse like the heartbeat of a living creature that would devour him if he showed weakness. 8 minutes until Chairman Yoon's deadline expired. 8 minutes to make a call that would define the rest of his life. He'd built an empire on decisive action. On calculated risks. On the ability to choose between bad options and worse ones without hesitation. But this wasn't business. This was blood. His phone buzzed. Seirin. He ignored it. Another buzz. A message from her, "My father is waiting. Whatever you're planning, stop. Just accept reality." Reality. The word tasted like ash. His reality was that he'd fathered children he'd never met. That the woman he'd once loved had raised them alone for 5 years while he built power on corpses. That a man more ruthless than him had turned his sons into leverage before he'd even known they existed. And his only path forward was surrender disguised as strategy. He pulled up Chairman Yoon's number. Stared at it. His thumb hovered over the call button. Everything in him screamed to fight. To find another way. To refuse submission to a man who'd manipulated him for half a decade. But fighting meant endangering Min-jun and Min-ho. Meant Seo-yun waking up to find them gone. Meant destroying the only good thing he'd ever created, even if he'd created it by accident. He pressed call. Chairman Yoon answered on the first ring. Jun-hyuk. Cutting it close. 3 minutes remaining. I'm calling to accept your terms. Silence on the other end. Then a low chuckle. Smart boy. I knew you'd see reason eventually. Power is always more reliable than sentiment. I have conditions. You're not in a position to negotiate conditions. Not negotiating. Stating requirements. Jun-hyuk's voice was cold, controlled. I married Seirin as planned. I stay away from Seo-yun and the boys. I never acknowledge their existence publicly. In exchange, you guarantee their safety. Complete safety. No contingency plans. No threats. No relocations to Canada or anywhere else. They live their lives undisturbed. Those were already my terms. I'm making them explicit. Because if anything happens to them, anything at all, our alliance ends. And I'll spend whatever remains of my life making you regret it. Chairman Yoon's voice hardened. Are you threatening me? I'm clarifying parameters. You want a controlled asset. Fine. But controlled assets have boundaries. Cross mine, and I become uncontrollable. Mutually assured destruction. You're familiar with the concept. Another pause. You've grown a spine in the past few hours. Interesting. Do we have an agreement? We have an understanding. You comply. They live peacefully. You step out of line, and I remind you why compliance was the better option. Fair. Fair, Jun-hyuk said, the word like broken glass in his throat. Excellent. The wedding is scheduled for November 7th. 11 weeks from today. My team will coordinate with yours regarding logistics, guest lists, and security arrangements. Seirin will handle the ceremonial aspects. You simply need to show up and smile. And after the wedding? After the wedding, you continue building your empire with my support. Our families merge their interests. Power consolidates. Everyone profits. It's quite simple, really. What about Seo-yun? What about her? She continues raising your sons in Busan. My people continue monitoring to ensure no threats emerge. You never contact her. She never contacts you. Clean separation. Everyone stays in their designated lanes. Jun-hyuk closed his eyes. And if she wants to leave Busan? Move somewhere else? Build a different life? Why would she? I provide everything she needs. Security. Funding. Stability. Where would she go that's better than what I offer? Somewhere free. Chairman Yoon laughed, genuine amusement. Freedom is overrated, Jun-hyuk. What people actually want is safety and resources. I provide both. Seo-yun understands this. She's not going anywhere. But she was. Right now, if Director Han's plan was proceeding as promised, Seo-yun was moving. Taking the boys. Disappearing into whatever network Director Han had prepared. And Jun-hyuk's job was to keep Chairman Yoon focused on him. Distracted. Convinced he'd won. I want proof they're safe, Jun-hyuk said. Regular updates. Photos. Something to confirm your protection is actually protecting. I'm not running a monitoring service for your parental guilt. Then let me be clear, I need assurance. Without it, my compliance becomes unreliable. Surely you understand the value of maintaining my cooperation through reassurance rather than through constant threat. Chairman Yoon considered this. Fine. Monthly reports. Nothing identifying. Just confirmation of health and well-being. Delivered through encrypted channels. Acceptable. Acceptable. Then we're done here. Welcome to the family, son-in-law. The line went dead. Jun-hyuk stood motionless, phone still pressed to his ear. He'd just sold his soul. Agreed to marry a woman he didn't love. Bound himself to a man who'd manipulated him for 5 years. Accepted a future where his children grew up believing he'd abandoned them. All to buy Seo-yun time to run. His phone buzzed immediately. Director Han. She's moving. ETA to safe house, 40 minutes. Yoon's surveillance team hasn't noticed yet. Your call bought her the distraction she needed. Relief flooded through him. Then immediate anxiety. What happens when Yoon realizes? He'll be furious. He'll investigate. He'll blame you initially. But you have plausible deniability, you were complying with his terms. You accepted his conditions. You had no reason to help her escape. Eventually, he'll conclude she acted independently. The question is what he does then. Will he come after them? Possibly. But I've made their trail very difficult to follow. And I have leverage on Yoon that he doesn't know about. Insurance that makes pursuing them more costly than letting them go. It's not a guarantee. But it's better odds than they had an hour ago. Jun-hyuk typed slowly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. Yoon will test you. Push boundaries. Try to find leverage to replace what he's lost. You'll need to be perfect in your compliance. Prove you're the asset he thinks you are. Any slip gives him reason to hunt them. I understand. And Jun-hyuk? You're doing the right thing. Being a father isn't about presence. Sometimes it's about absence done correctly. You're giving them something more valuable than your name, you're giving them freedom. The message thread went silent. Jun-hyuk walked to his safe and pulled out a small wooden box he'd kept hidden for 5 years. Inside was a photograph. Seo-yun, laughing at something he'd said. Taken during one of the few genuinely happy moments they'd shared before everything became complicated. Before his empire demanded sacrifices he hadn't known he was making. He studied her face, younger, lighter, unburdened by the weight of single motherhood and constant surveillance. He'd loved her. Maybe still did. But love was another luxury men like him couldn't afford. He placed the photograph back in the box and locked it away. Then he called Seyrin. She answered immediately. Did you call him? It's done. I accepted. The wedding proceeds as planned. He heard her exhale, relief she didn't bother hiding. Smart choice. My father will be pleased. I'm sure he will be. Are you all right? You sound different. I'm fine. Just tired. We should celebrate. Dinner tomorrow? Something public? Show the world we're united? Sure. Whatever you want. Seyrin paused. Jun-hyuk, I know this isn't what you wanted. But it can still be good. We can build something strong together. Power, influence, legacy. That matters more than romance anyway. Does it? Of course it does. Love fades. Power endures. You know this. He did know it. He'd built his entire life on that principle. But watching videos of Min-jun rebuilding sandcastles and Min-ho comforting crying classmates had cracked something in the foundation of that belief. Power endured. But what did it leave behind? I'll see you tomorrow, he said. Good night, Jun-hyuk. And congratulations. You made the right choice. He ended the call and stood in the dark silence of his suite. Outside, Seoul continued its endless rhythm, millions of lives intersecting and diverging, most of them unaware they existed inside systems controlled by men like him and Chairman Yoon. His phone buzzed one final time. Unknown number. A photograph is loaded. Seo-yun and the boys are in a car. Safe. Moving. Min-jun is already asleep against the window. Min-ho looks at his mother with absolute trust. No message. Just proof they were gone. Jun-hyuk saved the image to an encrypted folder. The only evidence he'd ever have that he'd done something right. Then he poured the whiskey he actually tasted this time. And drank alone to the family he'd never meet. Somewhere in Busan's outskirts, Chairman Yoon's surveillance team was just realizing their primary asset had vanished. Somewhere on a highway heading north, Seo-yun held her sleeping sons and allowed herself to cry. Somewhere in Seoul's shadows, Director Han monitored communications and prepared for the storm that would come when Chairman Yoon understood he'd been outmaneuvered. And in his penthouse suite overlooking a conquered city, Kang Jun-hyuk, the Korean Mafia king, sat in darkness and wondered if power was worth the price he'd paid. His empire was intact. His position is secure. His future was mapped out in wedding dates and business arrangements. But for the first time in 15 years, he felt like he'd lost something he couldn't replace. His phone rang. Chairman Yoon. 3 hours earlier than expected. Jun-hyuk answered, already knowing what had happened. She's gone, Yoon's voice was ice and fury. Seo-yun and the children. Disappeared. Surveillance team found the apartment empty 30 minutes ago. Jun-hyuk kept his voice carefully neutral. What? How is that possible? That's what I intend to find out. Where were you in the last 2 hours? Here. In my suite. Making calls. Accepting your terms. Exactly as agreed. Did you help her? Why would I? You made it clear that compliance was my only option. I complied. If she ran, she did it on her own. Silence. Then Chairman Yoon's voice, slightly softer. My people are tracking her. She can't have gone far. We'll find her. I'm sure you will. But they wouldn't. Director Han was too good. And Jun-hyuk had just bought his sons their freedom with the most expensive currency he had. His soul. 3 weeks later. The wedding preparations continued with mechanical precision. Guest lists finalized. Venue confirmed. Flowers selected. Menu approved. Security arrangements were enhanced to levels usually reserved for presidential summits. Everything perfect. Everything controlled. Everything is a lie. Jun Hyuk attended every meeting Se-rin's wedding planner scheduled. Smiled for engagement photos that would appear in carefully selected publications. Made appearances at social functions where Seoul's elite congratulated him on his excellent match. He played his role flawlessly. Inside, he was counting days. Chairman Yoon's people had found nothing. No trail. No sightings. No financial transactions led anywhere useful. Seo-yeon had vanished as completely as she had 5 years ago, but this time, Yoon didn't have the advantage of knowing she was hiding nearby under his protection. She was simply gone. The boys were with her. Director Han had delivered on her promise. But the cost was mounting. Chairman Yoon's fury had cooled into something more dangerous, calculated suspicion. He'd increased surveillance on Jun Hyuk. Monitored his communications more closely. Tested his loyalty through increasingly uncomfortable requests. 2 weeks ago, Yoon had asked him to eliminate a political rival. Jun Hyuk had complied without hesitation. The man had died in a car accident that fooled no one, but couldn't be proven as anything else. Yoon had smiled and called him son. The word had tasted like poison. Now, Jun Hyuk sat in his office reviewing contracts he didn't care about, waiting for the next test. The next proof of loyalty. The next piece of himself he'd sacrifice to maintain the illusion that he was Chairman Yoon's obedient weapon. His phone buzzed. Se-rin. Final dress fitting today. Want to see? Or is that bad luck? He typed back, surprise me on the day. Romantic. I'll take it. Dinner tonight? My father wants to discuss the honeymoon. Sure. He set the phone down and stared at the Seoul skyline. 8 weeks until the wedding. 8 weeks until he was legally bound to a family that had turned his children into leverage. 8 weeks until whatever remained of Kang Jun-hyuk disappeared into the role of Chairman Yoon's son-in-law. His secure line buzzed, the one only a handful of people knew about. Director Han. He answered immediately. Tell me they're safe. They're safe. Relocated to New Zealand. Small town. New identities. Seo-yeon is working as a translator. The boys are enrolled in a local school. They're adjusting well. Relief washed through him. Yoon hasn't found them. He's still looking. But I've created enough false trails that his resources are scattered. By the time he narrows the search area, they'll have moved again. We have protocols in place. How long can you keep this up? Indefinitely, if you maintain your end. As long as Yoon believes you're his asset, he has no reason to connect you to their disappearance. You're his prize, not his suspect. Keep being perfect. Keep complying. Keep giving him no reason to question your loyalty. And if he does question it, then we adapt. But right now, you're doing exactly what you need to do. Playing the role. Buying them time. Giving them space to build new lives. Jun Hyuk closed his eyes. Do they ask about me? Director Han paused. Min Jun does. Seo-yeon tells him you had to stay behind to keep them safe. That you love them enough to let them go. He's young enough to accept that. Min Ho, he's quieter about it. But I think he understands more than he shows. They're better off. They are. And someday, when they're old enough, Seo-yeon will tell them the truth. Their father made an impossible choice and chose correctly. That's more than most children of men like you ever get. Men like me, Jun Hyuk repeated quietly. Men who build empires on violence and then wonder why love becomes impossible. You're not unique, Jun Hyuk. But you are unusual, Most men in your position wouldn't have let them go. They'd have kept them close, convinced themselves they could protect them while continuing their operations. You were smarter. And braver. Doesn't feel brave. Bravery rarely does when you're living it. It only looks brave in retrospect. Director Han's voice softened slightly. How are you holding up? I'm functional. That's not what I asked. Jun-hyuk stared at his reflection in the office window, a man in an expensive suit, a powerful position, and an empty future. I'm surviving, he said finally. That's all I know how to do. That's enough for now. Keep surviving. Keep playing the role. And know that somewhere in New Zealand, 2 little boys are growing up safe because you were strong enough to stay away. The call ended. Jun-hyuk sat alone with the weight of his choices. His phone buzzed again. This time, an encrypted message from an unknown source. A photograph is loaded. Min-jun and Min-ho on a beach, different from Houndy, somewhere wilder and more remote. Building another sandcastle. Laughing. Free. No surveillance teams are watching. No armed guards hovering nearby. Just 2 children being children. Below the image, a single line. They're happy. That's your legacy now. Protect it by staying away. Jun-hyuk saved the photo next to the one from 3 weeks ago. 2 images. The only proof he was a father. The only evidence that something good existed because of him rather than despite him. His office door opened. Se-rin entered without knocking, looking radiant in a designer dress that probably cost more than most people earned in a year. Ready for dinner? She asked. My father made reservations at that place you like. Sure. She studied him with narrowed eyes. You've been different lately. Quieter. More, compliant. It's unsettling. You wanted me compliant. I wanted you controlled. There's a difference. Compliant men are boring. Controlled men are useful. Jun-hyuk stood and adjusted his tie. Then I'll try to be more entertaining. Se-rin stepped closer, voice dropping. I know you're thinking about them. The woman. The children. You get this look when you think no one's watching. Distant. Sad. Very un-Mafia king-like. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. But here's what I'll tell you, whatever you're feeling, bury it. My father is watching you closely. Any sign you're not fully committed to this family, and he'll start asking questions. Questions lead to investigations. Investigations lead to discoveries. And discoveries lead to people getting hurt. Is that a threat? It's a warning. From someone who actually wants this arrangement to work. I don't love you, Jun-hyuk. But I respect you. You're brilliant, ruthless, and useful. That's better than love. But only if you stay focused. Only if you remember that the past is past and the future is what we build together. And if I can't forget the past. Se-rin's expression hardened. Then fake it better. Because my father doesn't tolerate divided loyalties. And neither do I. She turned and walked toward the door. Come on. We're late. Jun-hyuk followed her out of his office, down the elevator, into the car waiting to take them to dinner with the man who'd stolen his children and returned them transformed into insurance. They drove through Seoul's nighttime streets, lights blurring past like memories he couldn't hold on to. At the restaurant, Chairman Yoon greeted them warmly. Ordered expensive wine. Toasted to family and future and all the careful lies powerful people told themselves. To my future son-in-law, Yoon said, raising his glass. Who has proven himself worthy of joining our family through wisdom and restraint. Many men would have chosen emotion over strategy. You chose correctly. That shows character. Jun-hyuk raised his glass. To family. They drank. The wine tasted like blood. Conversation flowed around topics that didn't matter: business opportunities, political maneuvering, social obligations. The machinery of power ground forward regardless of who it crushed in the process. Jun Hyuk smiled in the right places. Nodded at appropriate moments. Played his role with the precision of someone who'd spent 15 years becoming whoever the situation required. But inside, in the places no one could see, he was counting. 8 weeks until the wedding. 8 weeks until his life became irrevocably Chairman Yoon's to control. 8 weeks until the cage is locked completely. His phone buzzed silently in his pocket. He checked it discreetly under the table. Another message from the unknown source. Another photograph. This one showed all three of them, Seo Yun and both boys, standing at the edge of what looked like a cliff overlooking an endless ocean. Sunset painting everything gold. All of them are smiling. The caption read, "This is what freedom looks like. This is what you bought them. Don't forget why you're enduring what comes next." Jun Hyuk memorized every detail of the photograph. Then deleted the message and returned his attention to the dinner conversation as if nothing had happened. Chairman Yoon was discussing honeymoon destinations. Se-rin was suggesting somewhere exotic but secure. And Jun Hyuk was nodding along while his heart existed somewhere across an ocean with people who would never know his name. The dinner ended. They left the restaurant. Chairman Yoon shook his hand. 8 weeks, son. Then you officially join this family. I look forward to many profitable years together. As do I, Chairman. Please. Call me father. We'll be family soon enough. The word stuck in Jun Hyuk's throat like shrapnel. Father, he managed. Yoon smiled, satisfied, triumphant, secure in his victory. Then he left with Se-rin to review additional wedding details. Jun Hyuk returned to his penthouse alone. Poured whiskey, he was drinking too much of lately. Stood at his window overlooking the city he'd conquered and lost himself inside. His phone buzzed one final time. A message from Director Han. Final check-in for tonight. They're asleep. Safe. Dreaming of sandcastles and tomorrow's adventures. You did this. You gave them this. Remember that when it gets hard. Jun Hyuk replied, how long do I have to keep this up? As long as it takes. Years, maybe. Possibly forever. Until Yoon dies or loses interest or finds other leverage more valuable than hunting children who disappeared. There's no clean ending here. Just survival. Can you accept that? He stared at the question for a long time. Then typed, I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. You chose them over the empire. Now you're choosing to protect that choice by pretending you didn't make it. That's harder than most people understand. But it's the only way they stay safe. Will I ever see them again? Long pause. I don't know. Maybe when they're adults. When Yoon is no longer a threat. When the danger has passed. But that could be decades. Can you wait that long? Jun Hyuk looked at the photographs saved on his encrypted phone. 2 little boys who carried his blood and none of his sins. Growing up free because he'd chosen to remain caged. I can wait forever if I have to, he typed. Then that's what you'll do. Wait. Endure. Survive. And know that somewhere, they're living the life you made possible. The message thread went silent. Jun Hyuk stood at his window until dawn painted Seoul's skyline gold. Somewhere in New Zealand, his sons were waking up. Eating breakfast. Getting ready for school. Building sandcastles that wouldn't crumble. Living futures that didn't include him. And Kang Jun Hyuk, the Korean Mafia king, accepted that some victories looked like defeat. Some protection is required absence. Some love demanded silence. In 8 weeks, he would marry a woman he didn't love. Bind himself to a family that had weaponized his children. become permanently trapped in the empire he'd built. But Min Jun and Min Ho would wake up every morning safe. Free. Untouched by the violence that defined their father's existence. And that was worth everything. Even if it destroyed him. Outside his window, Sol woke to another day of carefully orchestrated chaos. Inside his chest, something that had briefly remembered how to feel was turning back to stone. By the time the sun fully rose, Kang Junhyuk was once again exactly what he'd always been. Powerful. Dangerous. Alone. And somewhere between those three states, a father who would never hold his children but had given them something more valuable than his presence. His absence. His sacrifice. His love, expressed through silence. The wedding invitations were already being printed. The venue confirmed. The future is locked into place. And in 11 weeks, when the ceremony concluded and the cage door closed forever, Kang Junhyuk would smile for the cameras and play his role perfectly. Because that's what fathers did. They sacrificed. Even when no one would ever know. Even when the sacrifice looked like surrender. Even when it costs everything. By this time tomorrow, Chairman Yoon's empire would be celebrating the upcoming wedding. The boys would be building new sandcastles on a beach their father would never see. And Seo Yun would be teaching them that family didn't require biology, just love and protection and the courage to choose what mattered most. Somewhere in the space between empire and blood, Kang Junhyuk had made his choice. And whatever came next, he would endure it. For them. Always for them. Even if they never knew his name.